Is Chuck coming in on the invitation this morning for the WebEx? Okay, let's keep an eye out for him. Oh, there he is. Chuck's here. Are you with us, Chuck?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Good morning, Chuck.
Good
Right
morning,
on.
Deb.
Oh, there you are, right on time. Okay, and there's the amended agenda.
Do you want my copy?
No, I have my own. I'm not too concerned. Shuffle.
You're saying your personal rezone, you don't have your...
I have my own.
Oh.
That's ironically the one that I have. I have the rest of them, I don't know what I did with them, but I'll decide.
Well, they tell me as soon as the clock strikes 9 that we're streaming live on the internet as well as over WCCO. So I guess we're ready to go. This is the May 2021 meeting of the Environment and Land Use Committee, Trempealeau County's Environment and Land Use Committee. And I will call the meeting to order at this time and start with a roll call of the members of the committee, and I'll also have staff introduce themselves. I'm George Brandt, the chairman of the committee, and I'm District 6 supervisor, County Board.
Beth Killian, secretary for the committee and supervisor number 7.
Randy Severson, livestock producer member.
Kellen Nelson, District 14 Supervisor.
Carol Bowick,
Chuck
FSA.
Wallach, District 11 Supervisor.
Thanks, Chuck.
Carol Bowick, FSA representative.
Kurt?
Kurt Cohen, supervisor, District 16.
Kathy Seglin, Town's Government Representative to the committee and Vice Chair.
And we're all here. Thank you. And staff, Verge?
Verge Gamera, Department of Land Management. I record the minutes for the meetings.
And Mark Carlson.
Mark Carlson, Trumbull County Department of Land Management.
All right, thank you. Certify open meeting law requirements have been met. I will do that. And we have an amended agenda, which I found in the manila envelope that was on my desk. It's a 20-item agenda. We do have one canceled public hearing. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So
Motion by Nelson, second by Bowick. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
And just to let the committee know, I have to leave at 11:30 this morning.
Okay. And Chuck, will you be with us through the meeting?
Hopefully I'll be able to stay the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. Now we have 2 sets of minutes, which were very good reading. I so appreciate the minutes that Verge takes. One was they were for the same day. I think what I would do is entertain a motion to approve both of them simultaneously.
Killian will make a motion to approve both sets of minutes from April 7th.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Wallach will second that.
Oh, we'll give it to Chuck. Chuck on the delay. Any corrections?
Just a couple of minor typos that...
Okay. In which case, all in favor of approving the minutes for both meetings of April 7th, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, they will be approved. We're going to go right to a public hearing. I'll call the public hearing to order right now. One of the members of the committee is requesting a land use change or rezone, so Kellen will clearly refrain from voting on this one, but he is here to present and to answer any questions. And you've been here, so you know how this works. Okay. Let's have the secretary read the notice.
There will be a public hearing before the Trempealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 at 9 a.m. in the county boardroom of the courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose, the land use change rezone from residential 8, R8 to Commercial C on approximately 1.46 acres for a building for light office use for seed chemical sales business. Location, located at the corner of Carlstead Road and County Road O in Section 1, Township 23 North, Range 8 West, all in the town of Hale, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin, parcel number 018-00701-0010. Hearing requested by Kellen M. and Lindsay A. Nelson, Osseo, Wisconsin, landowner petitioners. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you're unable to attend and have any questions, please call Virginette Gamroth with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916 or email at vergegamroth@County Trempealeau, Wisconsin, U.S. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to Department of Land Management, P.O. Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin 54773, or email to vergegamroth@County Trempealeau, Wisconsin, U.S. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Virginette Gamroth of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916. Sincerely, Virginette Gamroth, Service Specialist.
So the way we'll do this is have Verge give a presentation as to what the request is. Kellen, add anything that you would like. If there's anyone present who wants to comment on this, we ask them to fill out a request for speaking form, which is at the back table. If there's anyone watching on the cable or listening online, we are asked, and you care to speak to this, we ask you to call 715-538-1770. And we have a phone set up here with a speaker, and you could ask questions or comment on the request. So Verge, what have we got?
Okay. As the newspaper notice said, or letter to the adjoiners, I received an application from Kellen and Lindsay Nelson to rezone 1.46 acres from R8 to commercial in the Hale Township for a seed and chemical sales business. And as George said, we'll let Kellen explain that a little more. His parents are the only adjoining landowners, and I received no correspondence from them. It was published in the county paper April 14th and April 21st. No, I didn't receive any correspondence from anyone on that publication. I do have a letter from the town which was included in your committee packets. The land use plan was R8, but Town of Hale has redone their plan, and this should be rural residential eventually. If approved, this would go to full county board on May 17th, 2021. That's all I have for you.
Is there anything you want to add, Kellen? Or sort of, Kellen?
Not a whole lot.
Turn on your mic, too.
Tried before. No, there's not a lot to add. I've been doing business out of this location with seed and chemicals for this location. It must be 4 years now. I did not build an office. I've been working out of my house, and now I need a place to get away from my house so I can focus on work and keeping my paperwork there. So this basically is a little shed that'll be behind the big building you can see on there.
Sure.
And just be for my own light office use and things like that.
Okay. Is there, now I have to ask 3 times, so is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this request for a conditional use permit? And again, we're taking phone calls at 715-538-1770, 538-1770. I'll say it a second time, and then we'll wait a little while for folks to call in possibly. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this request for a rezone? And again, 715-538-1770. Let's give everybody about a minute here if they want to call in. But in the meantime, Verge, do you want to read the letter from the town?
Sure. The letter is dated April 7th, 2021, to the Trumpealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee. On April 7th, 2021, the Town of Hale Board met to discuss the rezoning of 1.5 acres on the Kellen Nelson Farm from R8 to commercial. Mr. Nelson is constructing a building for the purpose of storing seed / chemicals in, but the office would be separate and not included in the building. Thus, a rezone to commercial was needed. The rezone area is located on a parcel of land that is bordered by County Road O on the south side and Carlstead Road on the west side. The board meeting was posted in 3 public locations prior to the meeting. All of the paperwork regarding this rezone was presented to the board for their review. No opposition from the public was voiced at the meeting. After some discussion, a motion was made by David Lingen and seconded by Greg Bonstead to recommend to the County Environment and Land Use Committee their approval of the zoning change. The motion to recommend approval of the rezoning change was passed unanimously by the board. This letter of approval for the rezone of 1.5 acres from R8 to commercial is being authorized by the Town of Hale Board and is being presented to the Trumpealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee by Donald A. Halverson, Town of Hale Clerk.
I'll ask for a third time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for, against, or has any questions that need answering? And again, you can call in 715-538-1770. I'm not hearing the phones ringing off the hook. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 9:11 and open it up to the committee for discussion and possible action.
Killian will make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, Killian and Scoyen to approve. Is there any discussion, any questions for Kellen? Yes, Kathy?
I do have 2 questions. Poke myself with the pen. The shed that we're seeing in there, I assume that's where you'll be storing the chemicals and seeds? Is that a shed or?
Yeah, the large gray roof building?
Yes.
Yeah, yep, that's my
And then I see,
existing pole
yeah,
shed.
Penned on the side is 14 by 34. That will be the size of the office building that's going up.
Yep, that's exactly correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We're gonna do a roll call vote on this, give Kellen a chance to abstain. So, not telling you what to do.
No, I know what I'm
All
doing.
right, Scoyen,
Yeah.
Zieglen,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Abstain.
Bowick,
Yes.
Brandt, yes?
Killian, yes?
All right, it passed. Oh, Wallach.
Wallach, yes. Wallach, yes.
Sorry. You'd think after a year I'd get used to this. Thanks for helping me out. So it passes, and I'm sure, as you know, this will need to go to the county board. And Verge, there's a good chance it's going to be on the May meeting?
Yes, it will be on the May 17th meeting.
Okay, great. We're going to move to the next public hearing, which is a request from Matthew Dunn from the town of Preston to allow general agriculture as a conditional use in an R8 zoning district. And I'm guessing that you're Matthew?
George, you skipped one. You skipped this 905 one. So another is rezone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw the big cancellation letters, and I just skipped over it. So, we'll move to the 905 public hearing. This is a request for a rezone from exclusive Ag 2 to commercial for Rachel Scheiman, is that it? Scheiman? For Inacio, representing Genuine Homes LLC. And you've heard how we do this. We'll have the secretary read the notice and then some description. Verge, will you be taking this one as well?
Yes, I will.
Okay, good.
There will be a public hearing before the Trempealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 at 9:05 a.m. in the County Boardroom of the Courthouse, 36245 Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. Purpose: land use change, rezone from exclusive agriculture 2, EA2, to commercial C on approximately 8 acres for storage units. Location: southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, parcel number 02600360010, and the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, parcel number 02600350015, all in Section 1, Township 24 North, Range 7 West, Town of Sumner, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin. Hearing requested by Genuine Homes LLC, Rachel Scheiman, Osseo, Wisconsin, landowner petitioner. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Virginette Gamroth with the Department of Land Management, 715-538-1916, or email at vergegamroth@County, Wisconsin, U.S. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comment to Department of Land Management, P.O. Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, or email to vergegamroth@County, Wisconsin, U.S. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author and the request that the letter be read at a particular meeting date. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Virginette Gamroth of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-1916. Sincerely, Virginette Gamroth, Service Specialist.
Okay, Verge, just describe the request.
Okay, I want to acknowledge Rachel, who is seated here, and her father. I received an application from Genuine Homes LLC in care of Rachel Shaman. Am I saying that right? Sheeman, okay. On March 8th, and it is to rezone 8 acres from exclusive Ag 2 to commercial for storage units in the town of Sumner along Highway 10, and it's on the map up there for you. And you also received the information in your packets. As you can see, this adjoins city property to the west. The meeting was published the weeks of April 14th and 21st in the newspaper. Letters were sent to all adjoiners. I did receive a couple inquiries from a couple of the neighbors, but it's nothing minor. I can read them to you. And I have a letter from the town, and if approved, this will go to the county board on May 17th at 7 o'clock.
Okay, Rachel, is there anything you want to add to this?
Could you come to the microphone, please? And then just press the button, it'll be red.
Just like that.
Yep.
Sit
So
down.
since I sent in the application for the rezone, I did get a approved permit for access from Highway 10 from.
I'm
so-
sure that was going to come up in the questions,
Yep,
yeah.
so I just wanted to cover that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak to this issue, please register with the form in the back and get it up to the front table. And if you want to speak to this issue over the phone, if you're watching either on the computer or on the cable channel, please dial 715-538-1770. So is there anyone who wishes to speak to this request for a rezone? Is there anyone who, well, I'm just looking around, is, again, 715-538-1770. Is there anyone who wishes to register in favor or against or for information? Well, we're waiting, Verge, again, for anyone to call. Could you read the letters you received and as well as the letter from the town?
Okay, well, when I was sending out the adjoining letters, I looked on the application and I saw the Hogstead Road address. So I sent letters to the adjoiners on Hogstead Road also, so that was my error. But anyway, Allison Deutsch, who is a neighbor on Hogstead Road, where Rachel also owns property and is, quite a ways away, called. She had concerns about the rezone as she thought it was across the road from her dairy. When I explained to her that it was on Highway 10 and not where Sheeman lives, she seemed okay with that. And I forwarded Allison a map of the proposed rezone area, and I heard nothing further from her. And then I also received a call from Lynn Enochson, and I explained to him that this was not, again, on Hogstead Road, it was on Highway 10, and he sent me the following email on April 28th. I would like the following comments to be read at the hearing of the rezoning request by Genuine Homes LLC. With the drawing provided, the area being rezoned from exclusive ag to commercial does not make sense to me. It states 8 acres, but the highlighted area appears much larger than that. With that being stated, the property in question does not abut to mine, and I have only a general statement to make. I bought my property from a farmer with the understanding that my property was in an agricultural and farming community. I find this to be appealing, as I spent my life in an urban city environment and wanted to escape to a rural and more peaceful life when I retire. He understood my plan to retire here one day and thought it was a good idea. For these and other reasons, I would be opposed to any commercial developments abutting my property. Thank you, Mr. Lynn Enochson, Cary, Illinois. Again, this rezone does not abut his property. His property is on Hogstead Road.
Okay.
Okay,
A
and
letter
then-
from the town?
Do you want me to read the letter?
Yeah.
Okay. Town of Sumner. Dear Sirs, at our last board meeting, the board approved the rezoning of 8 acres to commercial for Rachel Sheben next to Value Implement to build storage sheds. Roger moved to approve and John seconded, and the motion carried. Sincerely, Jane Brown, clerk.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask a third time if there's anyone who wishes to speak to the issue of the rezone from ag to commercial. I'm pretty sure that's the east side of Osseo and along Highway 10. And 715-538-1770 is the phone number to call in. All right, we're not hearing anything, so I'm going to close the public hearing at 9:20 and open it up to the committee for possible action. Motion to approve by Scoyen, second by Nelson. Any discussion? Yes, Kathy?
I am curious from what we have before us, exactly what is being rezoned to commercial. We do have a larger purple area on in our folders. Is that entire area 8 acres to be rezoned?
The purple area, oh, there we go, that's, do you want to speak to that, Rachel? I'm guessing this line here, about 2/3 of the way up is what you're talking about?
Yes.
Please come to the microphone again. Thank you.
It's kind of a oblong, like triangle.
Yeah.
That was attached in my application. So it's like the front.
So it's this whole purple area?
Nope,
Or
nope,
just this
just
top?
the top part. Yep, the top
Yeah,
part.
it's 8 acre, the top 8 acres of the 23.
Yep.
And this is directly to the east of Value Implement?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Is your intent eventually to develop the whole 8 acres?
Not right away, but yes.
But by zoning it that way.
Eventually, yeah,
Okay.
grow over time.
With more storage units?
Yes, just storage units. Yep.
Are people really parking their RVs in these things?
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
It's 40 feet, well, someone who knows, okay.
Yeah, yep.
She's one of the travelers. Yeah, 40 feet long, 20 feet high, just crazy.
Yeah, there's no, if you live in town too, there's no, a lot of people don't have anywhere to store them, so.
My comment was not for this, but make sure you build these tall enough, because we had just purchased a new RV, and the shed that we would have had before it collapsed, it would not have fit in because the door would be
Really?
here and the camper would be here. So make sure it's tall enough
All right.
for those of us that have bigger units.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, there's a motion and a second. The committee seems, if the committee seems that this is an appropriate rezone, please vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously, and it will, I'm sure Verge has been in communication about the meeting on the 20th, I think, of this month. Okay, thank you very much.
I need some resolution signed.
Oh, sure, pass those around, please. Now, if I am not mistaken this time, we are going to a conditional use permit for Matthew Dunn. Is Matthew Dunn here? Yep. Oh, there's somebody back there. There you are. Hi. You've been here for this, so this is a request for a conditional use permit, and I'll open the public hearing at 9:23,
And I'll read the,
and you'll read it. Mark, are you?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
Okay, there
So,
will-
the secretary will read the notice.
Okay, there will be a public hearing held before the Trempealeau County Environment and Land Use Committee on Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, at 9:15 a.m. in the County Boardroom, Courthouse 36245, Main Street, Whitehall, Wisconsin. The purpose, to consider a conditional use permit for allowance of a general agriculture use in an R8 zoning district. The applicants are requesting to board horses and goats on the property. Location, southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, section 31, Town 22, Range 9 West, in the town of Preston, Trempealeau County, Wisconsin. Hearing requested by Matthew Dunn, petitioner landowner. Your attendance and comments are encouraged at this hearing. If you are unable to attend and have any questions, please call Mark Carlson with the Department of Land Management at 715-538-2311, extension 259, or email to markcarlson@countytrempealeau, Wisconsin, U.S. If you are unable to attend and desire to submit a written comment, please send your written comments to Department of Land Management, P.O. Box 67, Whitehall, Wisconsin, 54773, or email to markcarlson@countytrempealeau, Wisconsin, U.S. Please know that written comments will be read at the public hearing up to 250 words. All written comments must include the name and address of its author. Any special interest groups or expert witnesses will be allowed 20 minutes to give a presentation and must register at least 1 week prior to the meeting date by calling Mark Carlson of the Department of Land Management at 715-538-2311, extension 259. Sincerely, Mark Carlson, Zoning and Sanitary Specialist.
So Matthew, what we're going to do is have Mark, I'm guessing, because his name's all over this, describe the request, and then if there's anything you feel needs to be added, you can do that. We'll turn to you for that. So Mark, what do you got?
Well, Matt came in for a permit for an ag building, to house, a small number of animals. And then we determined that it was an R8, which requires a conditional use permit for general agricultural use in an R8 district. So that's why Matthew's here and to request this conditional use permit. I had no input from neighboring landowners. The town of Preston has written a letter of approval. We have done one of these in the past, and the only conditions we put on them was the number of animals that they were, foreseeing to house in their barn. And that's pretty much it.
Matt, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. Because at the moment we have 2 Appaloosas and a mini Shetland pony, and I guess we just bought this property for that purpose. So that's basically all we want it for, is just to have them at home instead of boarding at a different property. So.
Okay. Again, this is a public hearing, and if there's anybody here who wishes to speak to the request for a conditional use permit, either for or against, or for information, or if you wish to call in at 715-538-1770, we'll take your call and try to get your concerns heard and answered if you have any questions. So I'll ask a second time, is there anyone here who wishes to speak to this request for a conditional use permit for a general agricultural use in an R8? 715-538-1770. Mark, did you say there was a letter from the town of Preston? Okay, please read.
Dated March 8th, 2021. The Town of Preston Board of Supervisors were contacted by Matthew Dunn, W16137 Rat Road, Blair, Wisconsin, of his wish to build an agricultural pole shed to house his horses. He is requesting a conditional use permit, from the R8 zoning district he currently resides in. The Town of Preston Board of Supervisors passed a motion at their March 8th, 2021 board meeting stating that they support this matter. The vote was 3-0 in favor of this motion. Sincerely, Kathy Nelson, Clerk, Town of Preston.
Okay, I'll ask a third time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this request for a conditional use permit? 715-538-1770. You calling in, Kellen? All right. Hearing nobody, I'll close the public hearing portion of this at 9:28 and open it up to the committee.
I just have a question just about the wording for, like, the ordinance. Does it use the word board for personal use? Because board kind of implies commercial. And this is like just for personal use.
Oh, I see, yeah. Mark, maybe you can,
I didn't really hear the question, but.
so the question was, in the publication, for the publication, the line is, the applicants are requesting to board horses and goats on the property. This is not to indicate that they'll be renting out.
No,
Your
no,
plan
it
isn't
doesn't.
to
I
rent
guess
them.
there's actually, we have another section of an ordinance that would fall under, can't think of the name, but it'd be like, someone would have to have additional conditional use to, it's not a kennel, but it's
Right.
it's, I can't think of it.
Boarding, it's
Yeah, there you go, boarding,
Yeah.
but, no, this does not, his is specifically for himself.
Okay.
So I might have thought it should be differentiated, because when like board and boarding means
Yeah.
taking in others.
Well, I think the operative phrase here is general agricultural use, and that's what the request is for the allowance of a general agricultural use, as opposed to a boarding stable or something.
Yeah, I just don't think that word should be in there.
Yeah, and then
because-
I'll take, next time we have one of these, I'll make it more clear, I guess, but.
Okay.
But yeah, we had another individual in another township that was gonna require, for like a stable, and he was gonna request a conditional use because he was gonna have activities there and board other people's horses. In this case, it's strictly for Matthew's own personal. Next time I'll word it differently other than boarding, and be like housing his own, something to that effect.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes, Kathy?
Well, before we go into discussion, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Ziegler. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
I saw her moving first. Sorry, Randy, it's twice now. So any other discussion? Yes?
I don't know how the conditional use permit would read, but I would appreciate it if, according to Randy's question there, that the conditional use permit say house horses. And are there any plans to do goats? Because the second sheet just says 3 horses and 12 chickens.
Yeah, at the time, I guess, no, we don't really have any intentions of getting goats at the moment, I guess, so at this time, no.
Did goats come up at the town board meeting at all?
It was more at the board meeting, just a general to house animals on the property. They never really got into specifics about what or how many at that time. I know my wife would probably want to get a goat eventually, so if that was in there, we don't want a lot of animals. It'd just be more of pasture pets, I guess, is what we're looking at.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I think it's kind of unclear what the town really then agreed to do as far as limit on animals.
So I'm going to throw it back to Mark here. In terms of the conditions on this conditional use permit, this is how many acres have you got?
It's 5.61 acres.
Okay, so we got 5.6 acres, 3 horses, bunch of chickens, which don't take up any space at all if you don't let them out. But in an R8, what kind of restrictions are we talking about?
Well, the last one we did, there was a conditional use, and their conditions were 4 horses and 6 goats was the limitation that person could have.
Okay, so we
And it
actually...
happens to be in the same area as this
Right.
one. And
So-
if you limited him to a certain amount of animal units, whatever added up to that, or, you could say 3 horses, 3 goats and 12 chickens, or whatever the wishes are, but, it could go by animal unit also, like less than 10 or something like that, yeah.
Do you have any recommendations?
I think what he's proposing is, that area was all zoned exclusive ag, and then because of the lot development that occurred, it didn't all happen at one time, it was kind of happening in little sequences. The owner of all those properties was told, hey, you gotta rezone to R8 because of all these lots. So, it is kind of a rural setting, but there is a number of homes in the area. There's pasture there, there's Amish farms in the area. It's not like it's, a major subdivision, and it's nothing really that deviates from what the use is in that area right now.
Yeah, I was.
So, instead of spelling out and requiring that he can only have so many horses and 2 goats and 12 chickens, to try to police that, if we set an animal unit requirement, then it would kind of encompass every kind of animal he would wish to have. And 10 animal units that's just a number I'm throwing out there, but 10 animal units would be like 10 beef cows or something would be 10 animal units.
Kathy, do you want to suggest follow Mark's advice and suggest an animal unit number?
Yes, I would make a motion for a condition that there be a maximum allowed 10 animal units on the property.
Okay.
Although 10 beef cows on 5.6 acres is a lot, but,
Yeah.
50 chickens, maybe not.
So I don't think you'd ever get to that.
Yeah, no, I guess, do the chickens, do they count as so many?
They're a pretty minute animal unit.
That's what I was thinking. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on.
1,000-pound animal is an animal unit, so.
Okay.
Factor that into a chicken.
So basically, it's
That'd
just
be
more,
a lot of
we
chickens.
keep it reasonable where we're
Right.
not bothering anybody at all.
Right.
Okay.
Or beating up the land too much.
Yep.
I think that's the concern, would be the concern here.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so there's a motion to put a condition on this conditional use permit that no more than 10 animal units be allowed on this parcel to be housed here. Is there a second to that? Okay. Kelly Nelson seconds that. Let's vote on this, let's vote on this condition first. All in favor of the condition of no more than 10 animal units, say aye.
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 Thank you, Chuck. Opposed? All right, there'll be no more than 10 animal units on this Rat Road property, which is incredibly rural and really beautiful and wild. I love it out there.
I have more horse and buggy traffic than cars.
Yeah, exactly. So, in which case, any other discussion, any more desire to consider conditions? In which case, all in favor of approving this conditional use permit, say aye.
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 Opposed? It is approved. It's your last step. No,
Is there any paperwork I need to?
I got to sign something after the meeting, and then maybe I'm going to sign
just have
something
to
right
sign
now,
right
and
now.
then that'll be it. So, next on our agenda is, actually, these two come together. Where do I go here? Thank you. Appointments to, thank you. Recommendation of appointment for Board of Adjustments and Towns Association representative. Verge, I'm gonna defer to you on this first one.
I think you have a sheet you can hold it by.
Oh, sorry.
There's 2 committee members for the Board of Adjustment that are up for, their term expires on June 30th, 2021. That would be Nancy Horton. She is from the town of Ettrick, and James Schwartz, he is from the town of Hale. He's also the chair of the Board of Adjustment right now. This committee meets on an as-needed basis, and they usually, their meetings involve variances from the zoning ordinance. So like I said, they only meet on an as-needed basis.
Is your mic on?
No,
There we
I
go.
was just say, can she speak up, because that background noise, I can't
can only
hear.
shut
Randy's gonna
one
get
door.
it.
So is that door shut?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can only shut one
Door's
door.
open.
Okay, we can only shut one door. so.
Oh, shut that one then. Yeah, yeah.
Shut this one.
Oh, she shushed them.
Okay, I'll start over. Two of the
That didn't.
members
Can
of
you shut
the...
that, oh, thanks. Oh, here he comes.
I think they ceased their...
This is personal government, let me tell you.
Okay, 2 members of the Board of Adjustment have terms expiring on June 30th, 2021. They are Nancy Horton, she is from the town of Ettrick, and James Schwartz, he is from the town of Hale. These people meet only on an as-needed basis because they typically meet to determine whether or not a variance from the ordinance is required. So your job is to either renominate these people to send to the county board chair for reappointment, or you can have new people. These people serve for 3-year terms. Like I said, the meetings are on an as-needed basis. And one of the requirements is you cannot have a member from the same township. So we have members from Arcadia, Gale, Ettrick, Unity, and Hale. And then the alternates are from the town of Preston and Trempealeau.
This has been a really good Board of Adjustment, I think. One of the, we don't have much to do with them other than recommending membership. They make decisions, they're basically our appeal board. And so we try to stay out of their business, and they try to be as objective as possible with their side of things. I know that there was just an election, and Jim and Nan were just elected to those positions, which indicates that they desire to serve. So if we will take any other suggestions, if you want to think about it, we could do it next month as well, and then come back at the meeting next month and pass those names on. But if you want to just send these to John, we could do that as well. Mark.
I work with these people, probably the most, that I would leave it as is if they were willing to serve, I guess, is what I would do. Because, like you said, they just got elected to their new positions, as far as president and stuff. And they're knowledgeable, they're experienced, they've been on there. And I don't know if we have anybody else even an interest in doing it, but I wasn't really aware that their term was coming up, but I think they're fine the way it is right now.
Okay. Yeah, Verge.
I just want to comment that they are good board members. They study their material, and that is really important. And I think they understand that they have to adhere to the ordinance to make their decision. So I feel they're good board members.
Killian would make a motion to recommend reappointment of the 2 people who are, terms are up.
Second by Bauer. Killian and Bauer. Any other discussion? All in favor? Kurt was moving. I thought he had, did you have something? Okay. All in favor of recommending these Board of Adjustment members for reappointment, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, do you want me to do that, or can you do that? Get a hold of, okay, get a hold of John on that. The next item on the agenda, yes. The Towns Association met and, or polled its members and has sent a recommendation to the committee to unfortunately replace Kathy as the member. This committee has the ability to add any names to that list of recommendations and let the chair decide. I'm trying not to push this agenda item, but the chair would be open to any recommendations other than Tony Munson, who was suggested by the Towns Association.
Is it legitimate to put Kathy's name back on that list in this meeting?
And there is precedent for that as well.
I would do that.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to suggest someone to be the town's representative? The requirement is that they be on a town board, clearly.
Do you need a second?
I don't think so. Or do I on this?
I don't think so, because you're making a recommendation. I mean, you certainly could if you wanted to, but otherwise you're passing on a recommendation to John to appoint.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll just leave it at that. And we'll ask John to consider Kathy and Tony Munson as members to the board, or this committee. We are joined by two august figures, and appreciates Krista Weisenberger and Rick Niemeyer being here. And they'll assist us in a number of the following issues here. The first one being the general engineering company contract, and I apologize to the committee members in advance of the discussion that we've only now gotten the copy. I think, Verge, it's in the packets.
I think you have it. Becky pretty much, I just forwarded the email to everyone.
Okay.
And there should be a copy of the contract or building inspection services agreement in your folder.
Right.
And the rest of it that you have, Becky did.
So as a prelude to this, Becky, and as a following a request from, so basically we're in number 12 on the agenda for those people following at home. This is the discussion, possible action on general engineering company contract. It was requested that that Becky supply us with some information related to numbers, how much we're spending on taking in and how much we're spending on the current contract or temporary contract, as well as sort of a history of inspections in the county. And then in relation to the current, the agreement that we're going to be discussing, the possible change in the fee structure, and how much that would add to the cost. Now, is this is not this isn't. Is this the one that Rick?
Yes.
It is. So this is the one.
Building inspection services agreement.
Agreement. Okay, Rick, I'm gonna kick this over to you and have you just lead us through this.
Sure. There is a need for, and let me back up. So this company, I think, has been providing this service for under a different type of a contract now for a period of time.
Is your mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
This company's been providing services like this for a while now under a separate agreement. The county's looking at doing this for a longer period of time, and I believe this company is actually even bringing in some additional staff in order to help accommodate the services that will be provided. So as a result of them bringing in some additional staff, they did request that the initial term of this contract be for 3 years, which George and I had talked about that, which we're fine with, because we were asking that the current fee structure remain the same for the 3-year period, so that way it can leave things consistent, as long as they agree to it, of course, for that period of time. Any renewals of it could be subject to some increase in fees depending on what happens at that particular time. So we put together, based on some needs of the county department and knowing what they're capable of doing, we put together this agreement that just kind of goes through and talks about how long it's going to be, what type of services they may provide, ways that if there are problems that can be addressed, or if one party wants to terminate the agreement, just the standard contractual provisions that are included in there. So this agreement does set forth, again, the 3-year period beginning June 1st. That date obviously can fluctuate depending on when this gets approved and when it gets signed, of course. And then the other provisions in there are pretty straightforward and basic. They provide the services based on the sheet. I don't know, I didn't attach the fee sheet to my copy. I don't know if everybody has a copy of that fee structure. But that would be the amounts that would be attached to this agreement and would be incorporated. I guess that's kind of an overview of it anyhow.
There's, I'm always struck in language when we're contracting for services that we have to say that they get to do whatever they want. I mean, it's their business. They're doing it the way they do it. We can't tell them what to do. But at the same time, when we discussed, Becky and Rick and I, with some of Verge's input, discussed how it is we want the process to work. So we're telling them how we want them to do it, but we're also saying we really can't tell you how to do it because you're a contractor. So there is some of that language in there which always stands out, basically saying we're hiring you, but you get to do whatever you want. So I mean that's standard because they're not employees of Trempealeau County.
Correct, yep. There is a test in the state of Wisconsin making sure that if a company is going to be an independent contractor, because if you don't meet that test, then they could be considered employees under certain circumstances. So we can tell them what we have as expectations and that they'll have to follow, which are where there are some of those things in this agreement. It's basically the mode of operation. In other words, how they perform those things to comply with the standards that we give them or the work that we want. That's the part of it that they need to have the control over, and so that's all in there as well too. But it really comes down to making sure that they are an independent contractor and that someone's not going to come back and tell us that actually they're more considered to be an employee based on the language, and so therefore we would then be responsible for withholdings and all those types of things. So.
I know that there's a need to get this done as soon as possible, but there's a lot in here that I think needs to be digested. I would not be upset if, I mean, like it matters, but if the committee members wanted to take this home and study it, and if staff wanted to go through it and make any suggestions as well, and bring it back next month. But, Carol, you want to opine here?
Well, seeing as that we just got this ordinance laid in front of us here this morning, and being handed the information regarding finances this morning, I find that inappropriate to make a good decision that it affects our taxpayers. Number one, I'm looking at a mileage bill here of $803 for the month of December. I can't imagine where you drive for that. One question comes to mind, do they start mileage by hitting the county line? I mean, if they're driving halfway from Green Bay to come and do an inspection, does the mileage start at the county line? I mean, that's how our office does things. So that flag came up. And then I look at your money here. I think you stated, George, that everything was covered with the levy, but I see here December, January, I mean, there's just money being lost.
So this is...
And I got one more thing.
Sure.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought when you get bids, I thought you had to get 3 different bids from other entities. Is this not a bid?
No, for services, you do not, the public bidding laws do not apply.
Okay, thank you for
Yep.
that then.
So the rather drastic chart of budget permit fees or building permit fee budget comparison, yes, if there was an employee in the office doing inspections throughout the county, or a number of employees, then the fees themselves would cover the labor costs for those employees. What we have done, and what this represents, is our current temporary, so-called temporary agreement with GEC, in which we pay mileage and, what is it, mileage and hours, Verge, is that it? We're in our temporary agreement with GEC, we're paying mileage and hours, is that it?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
That would be a better question for Becky Arneson. Do you want her down here?
Yeah, if we could get her down here. So, well, and the thing is, the clock for them starts in Portage. that's the mileage. So when they're sending inspections up from Portage, that's why that mileage is so crazy high.
So there's no one in Trumpealeau County that does this service? Absolutely no one? Really?
No one who wants to work for the county to do it, nor has anyone come forward to suggest that we hire them instead of somebody else. So, Kurt,
Was it the understanding that if it was contract was made, that the mileage would change?
yes, so to that point, Carol, if this new agreement, or if the new contract is put into place, this hourly and mileage thing, that would go away. And what the money that they would make would come right out of the fee schedule. That would be the extent of their income. And
So
then
we
there
don't
would-
have
And
a
then there
fee
would be
schedule.
some money that comes back to the county as well. Becky, if you could grab a mic someplace. We're going through the fees budget comparison, shocking, to say the least. So could you help us by describing, if we were to get into into this 3-year contract, which is being considered right now, or just the discussions beginning, how it is that the funding would work, and whether we would be able to recoup our expenses?
Sure. So based on, I don't know if I should take this off while I'm talking, based on what I was seeing with that initial contract, when they had the fees chart on there, they had their fees, just based, their bare bones fees, and then they had a suggested column where it was like a little bit of an increase. So if we were to go with what they suggest for fees, it's going to be money in, money out, and then the company will get, or the county would get that little bit of padding that they suggest that we add on. And that would actually help offset some of the costs for our staff working with paperwork too, or calls or different things like that. If we stay with this one, it is purely, now mind you, this is just what it comes in per month. I mean, we could all of a sudden have a month where we do way more building permits than we are doing inspections too. I mean, this could be completely different. I mean, we never know how the building realm is gonna go.
Oh, so not every building permit requires an inspection?
Well, there's land use and zoning permits, and there's building permits.
Right.
Zoning is, not in a wetland floodplain, so many
Right.
feet from your lot line, so many feet from the road. The building inspection is the construction of the building, or inspection of the building itself.
Right.
So what GEC does is just the building inspection. They don't do any zoning.
And this is just the building permit fees.
Okay, so this is
This
just
does
the building.
not
this is-
include any zoning or any sanitary or any of that. This is only the building permit fees. So it should be a direct comparison to GEC fees, like for what we're bringing in and what we're paying out.
So we have, you've supplied us with two sheets. One, our current building permit fee structure, and the other going with the GEC suggested fees.
Right,
So-
with that little increase.
Okay, and what that would do would cover the cost of our office work as well as the flow through to GEC.
It would help the cost of our office work as well as cover everything for GEC. Because what they listed in their fees is all we'd have to pay out for them. We wouldn't have to pay out mileage or any of that. So what they listed on their fees is in this already with a tiny little bit of an increase for the county to cover the county's cost. And then the first one is just what the county's looks like right now.
So this,
Would be even, a little bit increase for us.
okay.
So they would collect all the fees, and then this little portion, then they would pay back to the county?
No, well, actually, I think that needs to be determined in the contract. I don't know what you guys decided. If that would be something that you'd have to figure out if they were gonna collect them, or if we're gonna collect them.
in the current contract language, which we unfortunately just got today, and I had a chance to read in the email last night, they bill us within 30 days, and then we pay them within 30 days. I believe that was the language.
Okay.
So we're still collecting the money.
That works. Because then if we collected it based off of the one was highlighted GEC fees plus, that 910, so this is based off of a 2,500 square foot house in the city. And I did in the city, that way it wouldn't show any zoning or sanitary. You could just see a straight house build. It's, that 910 is their fees plus that little cushion. So then we would only pay them for their fees, and we would keep that little cushion to help offset our cost for whatever Verge or myself or Mark or whoever's handling that specific issue would cover.
So that little difference is $115 that we're going to be adding. That's the difference between 910 and
right,
790. That's $115. So that's what we're going to be putting on for the public to pay?
For construction, for the inspection fees. Yes, that is the place we're at.
Will the person doing a building still contact Trempealeau County, or will they be contacting GEC?
That would be up to our contract.
Because if I was going to be building something, how do I know who to contact?
So the most efficient and logical approach to this would be, and I guess I'm going to ask Rick to point that out. I mean, that was something we brought up a number of times in our conversation, is to be sure that GEC understands that we are the point of contact, we are the point of billing, and that their responsibility is to be sure that we get the final inspection products and to send to the state. So is there language specific to that, or is there language general enough that they could understand that?
Yeah, I believe it's under 1.3, the service definition of services, that all the information would be submitted initially to the county, and then the county would contact GEC to perform whatever work is being requested. We can certainly clarify it in more detail if you'd like in there, but it does indicate that the individuals would contact the county as their initial contact, and then GEC would be contacted by the county for any services being requested.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that language that you just said would be, I didn't find that in there, and I think we should add that in some way.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
See, that's why we should be getting this stuff earlier, so we have a chance to read through this. We can make a better decision.
I think, again, I'm just offering this up. We can bring this back next month.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to postpone this to next month's meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
I have one question.
Oh.
Since this is contractual stuff, should it be in closed session, or is it an open session?
Now we're looking at it.
Right, exactly. I believe that we can do it in open session. If it was
Okay.
going to be dollars, then we would want to go into closed session for that aspect.
All right. Kathy?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that other avenues also be explored. GEC may not be the only building inspecting firm in the area that might be interested in contracting with the county. I don't know if anyone has ever looked into other possibilities.
I don't know that either. Verge, Becky, Mark, do you know?
I don't think so, because we had worked with GEC. We had worked with GEC previously, and we had good results with them, so we just approached them, and they were willing to pick up the ball at short notice. So, no, probably not.
So would an ad in a paper be appropriate?
Well, they did that. I saw ads.
That was for a building inspector.
Yeah,
That was for the building inspector
inspector.
position,
Right.
I
Yeah, for the
believe.
position, but nobody came, if I remember right, there were no respondents for
We
that
had
that
one.
were qualified.
We had, and he wasn't, I mean, he didn't have all of his certifications.
I do know they've been very helpful picking up, picking up the pieces here, but just in the fairness of competition, I don't know if there is anyone else out there. Just a thought.
Let's just, Carol was, brought that up, and Carol would, again, because they were willing to do it, that's the only people we contacted, but will you trust that between now and next month, I'll try to, I'll look around to see who's out there. I know this is a very specialized and very difficult kind of work to get, or job to get people to do, so. But we do have a motion to postpone till next meeting the decision on the contract and then we will communicate with Rick between now and then any sort of changes we might have, or bring them to the next meeting. Yes?
Yeah, we're still gonna stay with them as far as our,
Your
going
what?
in. We're still gonna stay with them for our work that we got out within the next month.
Right.
Whether you found somebody else or not.
Right.
So we're gonna be paying for the construction permit cost and
Right.
inspection.
For this next month at least, yeah. All right, all in favor of postponing the decision till next month, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, I heard ayes. So we'll take this home, take all the information home, digest it, circle stuff, add stuff, and we'll, Becky, why don't you stick around if you got a minute?
Sure.
And then we'll pick it up again next month. Moving to Surveyor's report.
She just went to get one.
Oh, okay. We're going to skip to the cost shares. Did we have any cost shares this
No.
month? Okay, and this would be on the back of our, no, where'd it go?
Another sheet on the folder.
While we're waiting for Joe, let's move to the cost shares. Can I see yours?
Sure.
So, Verge, what do we got?
Well, I'll have Becky do it, because she
Becky.
actually prepared this report.
All
so.
right, sorry. Becky, what do we got?
Okay, for nutrient management farmer education grants, these are the ones where we work directly with the farmers to go through classes and get their nutrient management plans. We have Dennis Shepard, who has a payout for his class incentive of $500. He is in the township of Pigeon. We have the 121 Farms, which is Brian Malachewski. That is a dual, that is $176 of it is for soil sampling and $500 is for his class incentive. And then Greg Wright is all for soil sampling. We can max out at $750, so that's the highest we can go for all of the acres that he had soil sampled. Sorry, I missed it. Brian Malachewski is in Lincoln Township, and then Greg Wright is in Arcadia. And that's the nutrient management farmer education ones. You may have recognized them before as Mulwig. They're now NMFE. The ones below that would be the land and water resource management. So that one is broken up into two forms. We can have a bond grant or a SEG grant. This one is SEG, and SEG is specifically for the nutrient management practices. So Alan and Susan Lundberg, they are doing nutrient management for their farm. Grand total for payout is $17,320, and that would be the township of Hale.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the payout of these grants.
Motion to pay out.
Motion by Scoyen, is there a second? Second by Nelson. Any questions of staff, of Becky? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. It is approved, and the money will be passed on. Joe, take the podium, sir. So basically, we're just looking for an update on our wonderful surveyor and what he's seeing out there, but also we have an issue of parcel splits and registering splits and so forth, and how those get dealt with. So hoping you can sort of guide us through that process and what the need is and how we might approach that in the future.
Yeah, sure. As far as the update on the maintenance of the remonumentation, we've got all the paperwork ready for 2021. We'll probably start doing the field work any time now. Wait for the wood ticks and mosquitoes to get out. That's normally our process. That way we realize we're doing something. So basically that's it right now. We won't really have a formal report until we get some of that work done, probably early summer, I'm guessing. We usually try to do part of it in the spring or early summer before it gets too hot, and then we do the rest of it usually in the fall for the same reason. As far as parcel splits, my process on that is basically we review all the certified survey maps that come in, but not all divisions are certified survey maps. Some of them are just maps of surveys. Anything usually over 20 acres would just be a map of survey. And we also have surveys that of existing parcels that we take care of. As far as the splits themselves, typically the real property lister takes care of that, Nick Gamroth. He'll review the splits, and if he sees a violation in the process of doing the split, he'll usually run it by me to make sure that we're on the same page, make sure that it actually is a violation. Sometimes if it's just a misunderstanding, I can communicate with the land surveyor if a land surveyor is involved, or a property owner if they're involved. If we both determine that it appears to be a violation, Nick will usually send out letters to the necessary parties. I believe it's usually the property owner, the seller, in other words, the buyer, and if they had an attorney involved in the sale, that attorney, as well as a surveyor, if a surveyor was involved.
What would be an example of a violation? I'm not...
Probably the most common one is a conveyance of a parcel to a third party that's less than 20 acres in size. Let's say they do a meets and bounds description and it's 15 acres. Well, that would be a violation of the subdivision ordinance. Anything under 20 acres has to be done by a certified survey map. Nick would notice that when the deed gets recorded. He takes the deed, he updates the parcel map and for tax purposes, and then he'll realize, well, wait a minute, this is 15 acres, this should have been a certified survey map. And that's when the process starts. And I'm not sure exactly how he starts it, if he makes phone calls first just to make sure that was the intent. If he sees it as a violation, then he will usually send out letters to those parties, like I mentioned, giving them a time frame when they have to comply. A lot of times, I'm assuming he communicates with these individuals after they get the letter, and they work out a schedule to get the work done. He's informed the zoning office that he no longer is going to do those in that fashion. I talked to him about it here a couple weeks ago, and I said, well, you've been doing them ever since, I thought it was ever since I've been here, but he said it was since 2013, and I think that might be when he came to the DLM.
Okay.
I'm thinking. So he's been doing it at least since 2013. He told me that basically it's not in his job description, and he doesn't have time for it.
So who would be, if that's the case, who would be an appropriate person to take over that responsibility?
It's a good question. That requires to send out the letters in the same format Nick has in the past. He uses the mapping software for the GIS. He prints the deeds, cites different parts of the ordinance. I don't know if we have that person right now.
Well, this is a great introduction to the next item on the agenda, which is reorganization, the future of the Department of Land Management. So I appreciate you sort of lining that out for us, because this is going to be another responsibility probably that needs to be taken up. But just setting that out there right now. And
well, one question I guess I have as county surveyor is I'm not sure who's in charge.
Yeah.
You know, I get, usually if we have a scenario, we run our issues by typically the director or somebody who's in charge of that facet of the department, and then we can come to a common conclusion so that we're all on the same page. And right now, one of the most important aspects of the subdivision ordinance is enforcement of that ordinance. And if we're not going to be able to, in an orderly fashion, pick up these violations and follow through on them, that kind of defeats the purpose of the ordinance. It's like having 70-mile-an-hour speed limit on the freeway and everybody doing 100. If nobody's going to say, wait a minute, that's kind of the deal we would have with our ordinance. So it affects not just the subdivision ordinance, but also the zoning ordinance, too. So again, I kind of come back to, well, who's in charge? Nick had mentioned to me that it wasn't in his job description. I guess I'm not really that privy to his job description. Most job descriptions say duties as assigned by the department director. And my understanding was that he and Kevin had agreed that he would do that back in 2013 for one reason or the other.
Well, we're probably going to have to look at that. I mean, and clearly we're lacking leadership right now. So that hopefully will be a part of the discussion right now. If you want to stick around, you're more than welcome.
I think I will, just in case you have any questions.
Great, thank you.
Are there any questions of me right now? No? Thank you.
So the folks that I've been able to talk to on the committee, I had challenged or encouraged them to come ready to throw ideas out in terms of what's needed and what the future of the Department of Land Management looks like. And in reading the minutes from the April meeting, the first meeting, the 8 o'clock meeting, there were a lot of issues that were raised by staff in terms of what it is that needs to be on our radar. Everything from changes to the property tax law, to what's going on in conservation funding, to issues in zoning, to just money coming into the county for infrastructure. So, and I didn't memorize all of them, but this is something I wanted to be sure to share with the committee before we start the discussion. And this is language from the county board rules related to the environment, responsibilities of Environment and Land Use Committee. There's the description of the memberships and the terms and the quorum and so forth, and then the responsibilities, direction and supervision of the Department of Land Management. We set policies for the Department of Land Management. And now comes the hard stuff. Well, those were hard enough to begin with, but develop and maintain a county comprehensive land use plan. This is an issue that's on the table now and needs to be completed this year. Develop, implement, and maintain a county comprehensive zoning ordinance, something that Mark brought up at last month's meeting related to the kind of housing that he's been encountering recently. Houses, something like that, shed houses and mini houses and so forth, things that we don't have, or are Airbnbs, things we don't have in our ordinance now. So something to consider, something that will be part of our comprehensive zoning ordinance. Develop, implement, and maintain a county land and water resource management plan. Develop, implement, and maintain a county Department of Land Management plan. Ensure compliance, and now we're getting into the conservation side. Ensure compliance with the agricultural and non-agricultural performance standards and prohibitions, NR 151. Ensure compliance with Wisconsin statutes 20, 59, 60, 91, 92, and 281, and administrative rules AE7, NR 120, NR 151, AdCap 50, and AdCap 51. Conduct public hearings as required, and carry out the duties of the Land Conservation Committee and the Planning and Zoning Committee as referred in Wisconsin statutes and local ordinances. So those are the responsibilities, and to do that, we hire a director, and we also hire staff in order to make sure those things happen. As you know, now we are down 3, 4, 5 staff members in the department, including all but a half-time person who has responsibility for conservation. So we've got work ahead of us. Maybe before we get into the discussion, I just want an update from Krista in terms of recruitment and how that's going.
Sure. Give me one moment here.
And we'll need you to come to a mic.
Thanks, John. All right, so currently, openings that we do have open in the Department of Land Management, we have a Conservation Engineering Specialist vacancy. That position has been posted. We also have the Planning and Zoning Specialist. That position is currently on hold, correct? What else do we have? I want to say that is all we have. Oh, and the County Conservationist as well, and that position is posted, and the deadline is, I want to say this coming week.
I thought it was the 14th.
That could be as well.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so that's where we're at in terms of postings.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I think Nick and Ann are here, and Tess as well. So maybe what we can do is open up the discussion on reorganization of the Department of Land Management. I'll report on the. John is here as well. Kellen was at the meeting. The Exec Finance Committee meeting on Monday, where Beth brought up wanted to start the discussion about the decision making on disentanglement isn't the word.
Detachment.
Detachment, thank you, of land records from Environment and Land Use Committee. So the discussion in Exec Finance was focused on if they were to detach, who would be the oversight committee. Beth had suggested possibly splitting the Department of Land Management, moving Nick towards treasurer and Ann to Exec Finance. In the course of the discussion, it became clear in listening to Lori, the treasurer, as well as members of the employees in the Department in Land Records, that they preferred to stay together. Exec Finance Committee came to a consensus. There was no conclusion, no votes, that would make sense, and that the location they are in at the time would be a good location. So in order to speed the process, that is to say, if the decision was made to detach, then the Exec Finance Committee would be prepared, because they've had a preliminary discussion, they would be prepared at their next meeting to look at the ordinance, the ordinance revisions that would be necessary, as well as the board rules that would be necessary to make that official, possibly at the June meeting. So in keeping with our 6-month decision-making process, I think things would fall out pretty much in a timely fashion. John, do you want to?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. That's pretty much consensus, was just leave them where, because there's really no other place to go. Just leave them right where they're at, but just detach land records and put them back where they used to be under Exec Finance.
Okay, but leave the tax lister with the land records. So clearly, this is a decision we need to make, and we had promised we'd revisit it after 6 months. So that's what we're doing today. And so now I'm going to open it up to the committee members. I gave you a preview based on discussions that happened on Monday. So what do you guys think, Beth?
So could I give my presentation to this committee that I gave to Exec Finance?
Sure. Okay. And Beth was the one who wisely, I think, decided to start the discussion a little early so we could make this decision and get all the things that needed done in a timely fashion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this for quite a long time, because as you listen to my kind of timeline thing, It's coming up to be the 6 months that we were going to revisit the detachment. At the November 4th, 2020 Environment and Land Use Committee, Ann Hempel gave a report on her department. At this time, she stated a merger with DLM took place in 2015, and she became the supervisor of the real property lister, and shortly after hired the GIS technician. She also mentioned in 2011 her title became Land Records Modernization Coordinator. She asked to detach from the DLM. At the December 2nd, 2020 ELU committee meeting, more discussion was held on detachment. There was a concern for physically moving, even though remodeling had just been completed. Also, Killian brought up the added workload, which last month Hempel stated no need for additional staff. Leon stated that zoning issues, the violations and splits, were assigned to the real property lister before the merger with DLM. This was decided by Joe Nelson, Kevin Leon, and Nick Gamroth years before. When Gamroth left, another staff member in Land Records took on that role, but was not successful. When Gamroth returned, he picked that ball back up. And then at the January 6th, 2021, discussion possible action on Land Records request to formally detach from the Department of Land Management. Any other action to be taken in regard to closed session. Motion was made by Killian, seconded by Brandt, that the land records and the real property lister will remain in the Department of Land Management since there is no physical place to move them to. All Department of Land Management employees will follow the current Department of Land Management protocol for time reporting. This will be reviewed by the ENLU committee in 6 months, and the motion in favor carried unanimously. In an email from Ann Hempel to Jean Galazinski, who's a PTED member, on March 16th, 2021, Ann stated, "Also, I am still pursuing a detachment from land management, which will be reviewed by ELU in June, so I would leave my name, position out of any future job descriptions." At the joint PTED and ELU committees meeting on April 7th, 2021, Dick Gamroth stated, "Currently, right now, Ann Hempel is my direct supervisor, and though I highly respect her as a boss and a colleague, this was a product of the short time I wasn't here. I want it to be known I have no issues working under her, but like I stated before, I will not let my past years be forgotten, and that is why I was involved with trying to detach the Land Records Department. I still have not heard of 3 good reasons why it needed to stay together, but if this detachment doesn't happen, I will be formally going to the full county board and detach the real property lister position and bring it back to what it was prior to 2013. It appears that Mr. Gamroth and Ms. Hempel aren't happy with the present situation, and even though it is not quite 6 months, I feel it is time to detach. Apparently, Mr. Gamroth wants to go back to 2013. I don't know what his status was at that time. Was he his own department and supervisor? So I am proposing that the real property lister be detached into the treasurer's office since he works with taxes and the treasurer works with taxes. That position would report to exec finance monthly. I am proposing that land records return to exec finance since that is the committee it reported to prior to the merger. In this proposal, land records would be physically be moved to the Packer room until the remodel is complete. According to preliminary remodel plans, land records has space already carved out without being officially detached. I would also request that this department report monthly to the committee. This is the proposal I'm making to the ELU on Wednesday, but I wanted to get your thoughts first. If you would decide to keep the real property lister with the land records department under exec finance, I would ask that you would carefully manage the department. So that's what I presented on Monday, because it still seems like there is a request to detach from the DLM. So this is my thoughts, nobody else's thoughts.
And what did come up, and Ann had shared this a couple of times on Monday, is the difficulty with her current responsibilities, of course, but even prior to, and this was just prior to the COVID thing and working remotely and all that, the ability to do their job by being basically an adjunct to department, what the state requires them to do, her to do, by being an adjunct to the Department of Land Management was making it more and more difficult to do the work that she needed to get done. And then now that she graciously, and what we thought was going to be considerably more temporarily, took on responsibility, supervisory responsibility, it's getting just nearly impossible to do what needs to get done. I think you said like 90% of the stuff just isn't getting done that she needs to do. So that was the nature of the discussion on Monday, and I'd like to hear from our committee members as to what they're thinking about. We're talking specifically now about the detachment of land records. This would be the committee that would make the original decision to agree to do that, and then it would go to exec finance to do the ordinance and board rule revisions. Yeah, Kellen.
I guess this has been talked about, it seems like, for some length, and of course I haven't been here for all of it. I guess at this point, I don't see why we would want to stand in front of this. The Executive Finance Committee seemed to be receptive to the transfer of the Land Records Department in continuity as it is now. And there seems to be no reason why we would want to stand in front of this.
Kurt?
Yeah, I would go along with Kellen's comment too. I think it's time to do something.
Okay.
Yep.
Kathy?
As I see it, we have 3 decisions to make today. One is the real property lister, Mr. Gamroth. Does he stay under land records, or does he go to the treasurer's office? The second question is the detachment of land records. Will we be detaching them from land management? And the third question is the physical location.
In the course of the conversation, Nick was pretty clear. I mean, it was confusing, like as Beth pointed out, from different comments at different times, what was preferable, single-person tax lister, and, you know, as in other counties, not all other counties, under some other department, or a tax lister continuing to be with land records. And Ann was very clear, as was Nick, that the office is working really well with the current staffing, and that they would like to stay together. In terms of the, you know, it's always hard to tell when you're standing up. I'm sorry. I just had to say that. Go ahead.
I just want to say Nick's title is Real Property Lister and GIS Specialist, not
yes.
a tax lister.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting that. I did not realize that.
Yeah, and GIS specialist. And then in terms, as John pointed out, there's really no place else to go. And the room is currently set up. It was remodeled for that purpose. So, and unfortunately, the building project's going to, oh, Joe.
I'd like to add one other thing to be considered on Kathy's 3.
Yeah.
Is Nick going to be responsible to do the property splits that he's been doing for the last 7 or 8 or 9 years? The violations. The violations of, you know, when he does the property splits, he up to this time has been doing the violations. So that's the part that concerns, I guess, me the most in this whole thing. I don't really care where everybody is. I can find people in the courthouse, 1st, 2nd, 3rd floor.
Yeah.
What are they going to do when they get there? That's my question. Because like I said, we've got a subdivision ordinance, a zoning code that needs to be enforced. And right now, I don't see staff that can do this properly.
So,
and I think that needs to be accounted for as maybe a 4th question on Kathy's other 3.
Well, let's ask Nick. And actually, maybe Ann, this would be a question for you as well.
I'm not standing next to him on TV.
You want a step stool?
Okay, well, just in terms of, as Nick's supervisor, or so to speak, or department head, you know what his workload is. Does he have time to do parcel split?
The violation.
Violation,
The
yeah.
handling the violations is the correct way to put it.
Yeah. Does he have time to do that? I mean,
Well, I mean, he's doing the actual physical split of that parcel, and we had talked with the director a few months ago about this, well, 4 months ago, about how the new zoning and planning person, Nick would train them in how to do the actual violations. So Nick would still find them and then pass it on to the zoning department, if that makes sense.
that's
And-
information that we haven't been privy to up until this
Right.
point, and this is why this discussion is so important.
Yep, and Nick said he would train that person in how he was handling them and sending the letters and the follow-ups.
Okay. This is interesting because, as Krista pointed out, when she asked me earlier if they should repost for the zoning and planning specialist, I wanted to bring that to the committee to discuss before making a decision to repost. That responsibility is pretty serious, and I guess I'd have to ask Nick at this point, until we have a person in place, can you continue to do that?
Well, here's my concerns. I mean, it has been working great. There were reasons, and they were very well stated, you know, in the past couple of months and in 2013, why I took on those duties.
Right.
Because it was affecting my job. And, you know, we do have a good system in place between Joe and myself, and then at the time it was when the director was here, of making sure that when a violation came about, we were all on the same page, because what happens is people tend to call, say myself, because I'm the one that sends the letter out, but then they'll also contact the county surveyor, because there are going to be some requirements that need to be made, and we always want to make sure that we're on the same page with those phone calls or people coming in, because then if something does happen and it goes to the level where it does end up in circuit court, we as a county don't want to be made look like we're telling different stories and stuff. So it has been working out good, but you know, people need to realize that my job, and also I polled my counterparts throughout the state, anytime that violations happen in these aspects, people in my position pass that on to the zoning department or wherever the zoning office is called in those counties, and those staff take care of it. I, for one, really don't have a problem with continuing to do it. The reason why I got merged, one of them is because I was administering a zoning ordinance, per se, because I was the one sending the letters out and this and that I was not part of land management, so it was looked at, how can a person that's not part of land management be administering a county's ordinance? So we didn't want to have that gray area, to speak, so that was kind of another reason why that merger happened in 13. So with us talking about this proposed detachment of land records from land management, if I would continue on with those duties, then are we back to that gray area again? So, you know, part of it is like, all right, at some point, this is zoning work, not work of a GIS land records, real property person at all. And so I just want to just break away from that and let zoning people do it. And I know that we are short-staffed, but there are still zoning people that are staffed here that I'm more than willing and helpful to assist them in them making sure that those violations are taken care of.
Okay.
But I'm just concerned if we do with this detachment, are we back to this gray area again?
Okay, thanks for pointing that out.
Before Nick goes, what generally are the violations that you see with
I can maybe miss that when you were discussing that. A lot of them is when parcels are divided that are less than 20 acres in size, They need
So
to
it's
have
the
certified survey
survey
maps.
thing.
Others, you cannot create landlocked parcels in the county. All divisions of property that are created in the county, in the townships, cities and villages don't count, need to have 100 feet of public road frontage and stuff. So those are kind of like the two major things that I look for, because I'm really the first person that sees any of that type of stuff. And, you know, the way it was handled in the past just didn't work out. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but we're not going to go down that road. We got to worry about today and going forward. I just don't want that gray area in case we do end up going to some type of a level where people are going to contest our ordinance. I mean, out of all of them that I've done in 13, only one made it to Board of Adjustment, and it died right there. It very well could have been, they could have appealed to the circuit court system, and I just want to make sure as a county that we're prepared to be able to defend ourselves and not have any types of gray areas.
Okay, Krista, you had some clarification, I think.
I just quickly reviewed a few job descriptions, and I would agree, a big chunk of the zoning is in the current vacancy for the planning and zoning specialist. In the director position, it also states oversees and enforces the comprehensive zoning ordinance, and it's also in the planning and, excuse me, give me 1 second. The zoning and sanitary specialist job description as well, enforces zoning ordinances. So it is in a few different individuals' job descriptions currently, if that helps.
Rick, Nick has suggested this gray area that exists when a person who's not in the zoning department is enforcing ordinances related to zoning. Is it sketchy?
I have to pull up our ordinances to see who has the authority to issue, for example, citations and do the enforcement aspect of it, because it's very specific in there.
Mike's off.
Thank you.
I can review the ordinance right now. I know the ordinance gives very specific individuals the authority to do certain things. I would, as long as whatever we do fits within our ordinance, or we modify our ordinance to fit what we want to do, we can make it happen. So if there is that gray area, we can clarify that easy enough, because if we're going to have to do some modifications anyhow, we can do that. But again, I know in past I've looked at it, and there are specific individuals who are granted specific authority for enforcement. So I would just need to figure out who falls under which one of those categories.
Okay,
So
so it can be
accomplished.
cleared up.
Mhm.
I guess yes, Virg.
Can I speak? I would just like to say, we have talked and talked and talked about land records. The zoning is immense. And Mark and I, and Becky somewhat too, have picked up a large volume of work. In an 8-day period, I answered 100 phone calls just by myself. That doesn't include what Mark gets in a week. Mark does all the sanitary, we do all the permitting. You know, we've been playing around with this building contract, and we picked up all the ends that had to be met from that. You know, anytime anybody calls, we have to run down to the front. We've been dealing with the parks. Now we have to pick up the tree and shrub program. Reed has to pick up all the conservation stuff. When is it time to consider what we on the other side of the hall are doing and how much we have to pick up? I think, you know, you need to hear from Mark too, because I never talked to John Austin about what I was doing or my workload. Kellen has come in and talked to me, other members have come and talked to me. I never talked to Bob Petrick, I never talked to Joe Feltus, I never talked to Dan Schreiner. I mean, they are not the only ones doing work in that office. And Kevin had he did a lot of the zoning work out in the field and stuff. Marcus had to pretty much pick up that ball. So that's all I have to say.
Well, this will be what we're discussing. What we need to do, I think, right now is to get a sense of the committee in terms of agreeing or not agreeing to allow for the detachment of the Land Records Department. I got a couple people saying yes, and Beth is saying yes. Carol?
Well, I have a question, and it's more or less like a visual thing. Here's what comes to me is health was at the table when this was all started because we were doing the GIS. I was the one that was trained and took the classes with GIS. We did break away from that, and I think I shared that with George as to why. But when this all was started, the DML, it was sold that this merger was to be a one-stop shop, a convenience for people that they wouldn't be running all over. So hearing those words at that time, it's now coming to play that I guess, the merger stuff just isn't work, does it? So, so now you have to look at where you're going to be placing these people. So when you have a taxpayer, like I think of Kellen, you're probably out in the field working, and then you got to come into the courthouse to do a permit, and you probably have 100 acres of hay waiting to be made, and you got to run all over the courthouse here to do this. I mean, that's what comes to my mind. And again, I'm going to say is I think we need to take out the personalities out of this, and I think we need to stand back and look, how do we want this all to look 10 years from now? And I think the main goal should be that we have it convenient for our taxpayers when they come here. I don't care if you detach. I mean, don't give me a stink eye in the hallway because I'm saying something here today. I'm just really concerned as to how's this all going to look? How is this physically going to be placed? That's all I have to say.
If I can just spin off a thought from that in terms of efficiencies, there will be technological. There was e-filing. The report from Rose having to do with e-filing and Register of Deeds. It went from 0 e-filing in 2011 to 75% of documents are now filed with the Register of Deeds through the internet. There's actually a service that provides that mostly to abstractors and lawyers and so forth. But how it is that we provide the service is going to include more stuff related to the internet. Not to say that what you're saying isn't true, but do you ever have 100? Do you ever put down 100 acres of hay at the same time? Oh my God. Anyway, but you're right. I mean, that's what DLM was about. Department of Land Management was about one-stop shop, ease, efficiencies, that sort of thing. But okay, back to the issue of. So I think I got a conditional yes for separation of land records out of that. Randy, Kathy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the discussion has gone on long enough. And, I think it kind of got held up with some other issues, so it wasn't a straightforward decision on that detachment. And, I think that now it's more that, and I think it's time.
Yeah, let's not forget this. The pandemic thing happened.
Yeah.
Just when we were starting to approach that.
Don't forget Chuck, too.
Oh, Chuck. I forgot you again. Sorry, Chuck. You're muted. Sorry. So what do you think, Chuck?
Second. Okay, that better?
Much better.
I agree with you also, yep. There needs to be some separation here.
Okay, thank you. Kathy?
I believe it is time to detach. The question is how to do it, where to do it, and again, with a real property lister.
I think the consensus was the real property lister would stay with, the real property lister / GIS specialist will stay in land records.
That makes sense to me.
And location where they are now.
I would disagree on the location where they are now.
Well, just a second, Nick, we're still discussing here. So, Rick, the ordinance and board rules. This is language that can be prepared for the next exec finance committee.
Sure.
So I would say just, and does it appear to you have a consensus that a detachment from the Department of Land Management, land records, tax lister would be way to go?
I would suggest, because of what's being accomplished, maybe doing a motion and then relinquishing the oversight subject to confirmation by the exec finance, that kind of a thing, just
to make it all kind of tidied up and packaged.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to that effect. Kellen?
I so move.
Oh, okay. All right, and a second by
What
Kellen.
was the motion?
Rick, could you repeat the motion?
And again, assuming this is what the committee is asking or wanting to do, to detach the Land Records Department from the Department of Land Management, making its own standalone department, and that the Environmental Land Use Committee would relinquish oversight subject to Executive Finance Committee accepting oversight of that department going forward.
Okay, so again, even if we agree to this today, it'll have to be approved finally by the Exec Finance Committee, and I'm assuming too by the county board, since there'll be county board rules and ordinance revisions. Okay, got that. Okay, we're going to vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thanks, Nick. I think we're done with that now.
Oh, I just had a suggestion about a location.
Well, I guess that'll be a detail we'll work out. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, work out when?
This is, good question. We have.
Let's hear what Nick's suggestion.
Okay, let's hear your suggestion.
But it's.
I agree
is
with
that gonna
Kathy.
be
This is
our
just.
decision to make. if-
Yeah, it'll be our decision to
Okay.
make, but. go
Yeah,
ahead. Yeah.
just an idea, Beth, instead of having us go into the basement in the
Yeah.
Packer room, I mean, it just,
Right.
employees had to get taken out of there because of health issues, and I had talked to Rick about this and suggested it to Ann the other day in the office, that with kind of the COVID restrictions potentially being eased in the county, that, if the Wisconsin room would become available, and if we need to move out because land management wants to rearrange their stuff in using our area, that I would just suggest us maybe going there. We're close to the treasurer's department, who we worked really closely with and stuff, and yeah, that's just my suggestion on that. And that could be something that this committee and property looks at.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, could you refresh me? Is the Wisconsin room the one right at the entrance?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the decision, if we would make the decision to physically move, property would have to take over and decide where.
Right.
I wasn't
Okay, I
suggesting.
can shed some light on that. Okay, as a property committee, we have talked, and Nick was right. We moved people out of the basement because it was unsafe. So I don't think we want to move anybody down there so that they have to stay there all day.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. I'd like to move on, actually.
Just one
Go
quick
ahead,
thing.
Randy.
I just wondered if that decision should be made by Executive Finance Committee, since, that's the future of.
I think maybe exec finance and property need to weigh in on this too. Thank you. Now
Just that the property is the one that usually decides where people go.
Mr. Chair?
That sounds almost theological, Chuck.
And open-ended. If I may?
Go ahead. Wait, we've got lots more to talk.
The suggestion of the Wisconsin room sounds very, very good to me. I think this committee should recommend that by a voice vote, so that exec finance and property get some direction from environment and land use as far as what they.
You want to make that a motion then?
I would make a motion to physically relocate land records to the Wisconsin room.
Is there a second? I'm not hearing a second, Kathy. Oh, wait a minute, Kurt?
I'll say, I'll
Okay,
second.
second, a motion and a
It's just-
second. I'm feeling like a mixed room, so let's do a roll call vote, okay? Kathy?
Yes?
Kurt?
Yes.
Carol? recommendation to exec finance and property to move to the Wisconsin room. Kellen?
Yes.
Randy?
I will go along, I just feel like I don't know enough technically about the room or the.
It will be the final decision of the property committee. Beth?
Yes.
Okay, yes. All right, so
And Chuck?
that'll be our, oh, Chuck. Chuck, to move to the Wisconsin, recommend to move to the Wisconsin room.
Okay, that's what I just say, a recommendation, because
Right.
we have to look at some of the uses of that room right now. So, yes, just as a recommendation.
As a recommendation, okay, thank you very much.
I have one more question. Is Nick willing to continue doing the violations until we get more people hired in the DLM?
It sounded like training of zoning staff is something he's willing to do.
And
Was
then,
that-
when that new person comes in, he
Right.
would train?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's what they offered last year, and which I did not know about that discussion, so, yes, that's taken care of. But to a wider question now. You heard the responsibilities of the committee and the responsibility of the staff. There's been programs that have been developed, everything from tree and shrub to the WAVE program to that thing that tests, what's that thing we do with the phosphorus trading with the water quality trading program with municipalities, with how many municipalities are involved in it? 4 or 5?
Oh, yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6 that needs to be picked up. So it looks, and what I'm getting here, Verge, based on your comments, as well as the relationship to the ordinance violations that Krista, can I get a sense from the committee that we should go ahead and repost the zoning planning specialist position?
I say yes.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of head nods, so we've got to go on that, so get that out there again. Now, yes, thank you, Joe, I'm struggling here. I'm looking for input.
Who's in charge?
Okay, this is the issue I didn't want to bring up right away, but that I will bring up right away. There seems to be no immediate end, unless something's happened in the last few days, to our leadership issue. I have suggested to Rick and Krista some possibilities that bubbled up in my mind. I've shared it with some staff and other county board members of the possibility of hiring an interim director or appointing an interim director. The difference being, hiring would mean, in my image, going to some of the conservation and zoning departments in the counties that surround us and asking for some help in training new employees, in overseeing work that's specific, that county board, I don't know NR 51 from NR 150, to tell you the truth. So, although generally I know, I don't want to admit to total ignorance, but I can't train anybody. So we need people who are specially trained in certain areas to train people, obviously. So that's one possibility. The other possibility would be to appoint somebody within the department as the interim director. That, probably not, okay, because we're so far down on staff now, and that would just be more responsibility. But what's the feeling of the committee in terms of the leadership aspect of this?
Mr. Chairman, I believe it would be appropriate to have a MOU with a neighboring county that is similar to us. Your staff has stated that they are overworked already, and I think it'd probably be good to, I mean, who knows, you can maybe learn some new techniques from another county. Thank you.
Are those easy to accomplish, you know? It seems like if every county's got the same situation with overworked staff, are you going to wait for volunteers?
The two departments that have that have done this, well, actually, Mark Carlson pointed out the other day that he worked as a sanitary inspector for Buffalo County for how long, a couple months?
It was just over a couple summers ago, we helped them out when they didn't have anybody.
Yeah, so it's not, first of all, it's not unusual. The health department has memorandum of understanding with Buffalo County related to WIC. Extension works across actually 4 counties, sharing specialists. It's not unheard of. This would be, we would need to line out responsibilities, hours. You know, we'd have to work with current staff to figure out what exactly would be needed in terms of what we would be looking for. Rick, I'd ask you to look into this. Is there anything that, any red flags that come up to you?
No, because I agree, we do this in other areas and have done it in the past, so it certainly is something that can be done. And so I have MOUs that I've done for other departments, so it would be an easy thing to do, assuming we can find somebody who's willing to assist.
How do you find somebody? Do you put an ad in the paper,
Well,
or
if-
just
if we were to-
call your friends and neighbors?
If we were to, okay, that would be the third option, but I think the first step would be to reach out to the county cons or zoning, you know, just the various departments that match what our responsibilities are in the surrounding counties, and see if they would be willing to assist us.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Have you talked to current DLM staff about possibly taking over as interim director?
I haven't spoken directly to anybody. I've broached the subject generally and asked people to think about it.
Well, Mr. Carlson has been here for 27 years.
I believe when I suggested it to Mr. Carlson, he ran screaming into his office and slammed the door. Wasn't that?
I don't remember that conversation, but I
Okay.
guess I would just say, when are they gonna resolve the current director fiasco? Get that taken. What is the big deal with making a decision on, why can't that be resolved? Before all this, we're all just talking a bunch of nonsense. If that doesn't get resolved, and say for some reason they come back. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just ridiculous that it's taking this long to figure out what to do with that scenario. And we're all paying the price for it. I mean,
Clearly.
every one of us is paying the price for it, so.
And we all share, I mean, we're all just as frustrated.
And I think county cons and zoning people with other counties would be willing to help with, like, now we're not having a county con, or if we don't have a technician, I think other counties would be willing to help with that aspect. But to hire an interim director, I don't know where that would go, but it just needs to get fixed. And it hasn't been a pleasant 4 months for anybody, that's for sure.
Can I add one point here?
Go ahead, Chuck.
Okay, one thing that everybody should be aware of, there was a special county board meeting on, was it Monday evening?
Careful
Or
what you
Tuesday?
share here, Chuck.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. And that's what I want to say is, we were informed of some things that we can't talk about right now. So there are some things in progress that we cannot say much more about. So the county board is dealing with it as a whole right now.
Is that a relatively, okay, good. We got the nod from the, good job, Chuck. We got the nod from the Corp Council.
But I don't think the committee was probably aware of that county board meeting.
Not
in
the
closed.
members who weren't on the committee, that's true, yeah.
Yes,
Or
so
on the
I
board,
just
rather.
want to be aware, so there is some ongoing action, but we can't share it with anybody right now.
George? Chairman?
Yes, Kurt.
What county board meeting was he talking
The
about?
special one last Thursday.
Oh, okay, because he said Monday night, and I was unaware of
Yeah,
that.
okay, I guess I didn't remember the right date, but
Okay.
the night we had the special meeting.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
George.
Yeah.
And question to Joe's comment, who's going to be in charge? Are you referring to, like, who, if you have a question or problem, who should you go to kind of thing? Or, because I'm going to probably kill myself here, but
Someone call 911. No, don't do that.
but before I say what I'm thinking.
Well, I think Mark kind of hit it on the head. We're in a rabbit hole here, and it keeps going down. It's not coming back up. And until we get a director, I've owned a business for over 25 years, and I think I would be remiss in my ownership of the business if I said, go ahead, employees, run this, and I'll pick up the pieces later if there's anything left. Right now, I feel like the department is on fire, and it's nothing but fuel being added to it. And I fail to see how any organization, be it public or private, can survive with any sort of common sense attitude without a director who can make some of the decisions that this committee is making right now. We're talking about hiring employees, we're talking about changing job descriptions, we're talking about changing departments, structures, where we're gonna move. The only thing we haven't talked about is what's the director gonna say? We don't have a director that is even in a consideration for any of these decisions.
Well,
how are we gonna find a director who comes in and says, here you go, this is what we did to you? Do you think we'll even find anybody that's gonna willing to take that on? In a rural county in western Wisconsin? That's gonna be a tough call. And personally, George, I think, with all due respect, I think trying to have an adjoining county say, we need your director for a little while, I think is a big ask.
It would be a big ask.
And I don't think it's a solution.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. It was just an idea.
Like
It
Mark
was an
said,
idea.
We can, to fill a spot as a technician or somebody to help us out in a slow time or in a busy time, that's one thing. But to run the department, I don't think so. And I don't think we're solving anything without solving that issue first. And until we do, we're just spinning our wheels down that rabbit hole. And that's my opinion. I have a tendency to kind of look at most things I do from a business perspective. And I look at taxpayers who expect us to resolve their issues from a business perspective. I consider them clients. And through this whole process, we've done little to discuss how we're going to affect our clients. It seems like we're focused on everybody behind these microphones right now, and we're not focused on our clients. And that's, to me, that's a problem.
Carol brought that up as well, yeah.
Thanks, Joe, then I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
We're hearing a lot of wisdom here. Conversation has turned a little bit. There's a resolution that is out of our hands at this point, and I wish I could say we could just do it, but we can't. So, yeah, Verge.
Can I ask Rick, what kind of time frame are we looking at here? Are we looking at 3 months, 6 months, a year, what, for a resolution?
That's what I was just going to ask also.
Sure. Certainly, I could state a time frame, and that may or may not happen. It's going to depend on what the process unfolds as we go forward. So even if I told you it's going to be a month from now, it could be 3, it could be longer, it could be less. I mean, so I would just be guessing if I told you, just because we don't know how things are going to completely unfold as time goes forward. I'd like to say by the end of May, but I can't assure you of that.
Well, Mr. Chair, with that being said, I would recommend that we look for an interim director.
Joe, your advice was heard, and it is going to be a tough ask for no matter what we do. I think Rob, I saw you, Rob.
Hello, Rob Grover. I'm Economic
Wait a minute,
Development
Rob, I
Tourism
haven't
Coordinator.
called on you
Oh,
yet.
sorry.
I just recognized you, that you were waving your hand, okay? So, rest of the committee, I mean, Joe has brought an element to this discussion that's quite serious and legitimate in a lot of ways. What do you think?
Do we approach the interim position, and be known to the applicants that it could turn into permanent, or is it advertised the interim? I think you could get two different pools of people. You've got an interim, you could get a retired person that was just looking for, a little work, and if it's advertised the other way, instead of like adding another listing with an already pretty big list from the county, should it be approached that one or the other?
Yeah, so you're suggesting that to reconsider the idea of actually advertising for an interim director?
Or, interim, let it be known that it, strong possibility that it could turn into a permanent position.
That's something I think Rick would probably advise against, just because it would be, suggesting the county had taken an attitude.
Yeah, except I was thinking like the training and the knowledge that an interim, position would take would benefit, the second hire, and kind of, instead of duplicating another training.
Okay. Rob?
Yeah, sorry I butted in there, George. That wasn't my intention, but I wanted to throw out, I think, a big frustration for staff. And I think we all realize that there's a lot of legal aspects to this that does tie your hands, as frustrating as that is. I just would really encourage the committee, and I will say, I'm not overseen by your committee, I'm overseen by the Parks, Tourism, and Economic Development Committee, as is half of Reed's time as well. And I do think, I appreciate, Beth's our chair of that committee, and she's been very communicative to me, and I think Reed and others during all of this. But I think one frustration that a lot of staff has, and again, understanding that your hands are tied to what you can share, is the dissemination of information on what's going on in the broadest sense, and John, no heat on you, but, when the paper publishes an article saying, and maybe you're misquoted, maybe not, and again, I'm not putting heat on you, but saying the director's resigning on May 3rd, and then nobody in the office gets any sort of message about that, no communication, but the Trempealeau County Times has had, the main article is director resigning May 3rd, the source is the county board chair, but folks that have been going through a lot of crap for the last 6 months, we're not going to share anything with you on that, but it can be printed, again, in the paper, I mean, boy, oh boy, respectfully to the committee, I really think you have to look at what is your communication strategy to staff, what is your communication strategy to the public, and what do the members of the department deserve to be informed of before we see an article in the paper stating that the director is resigning on May 3rd. That's crazy. That was again, maybe a misunderstanding, maybe misquote. I don't know. I've certainly been misquoted by the paper before, but
As have we all. I see Debbie's here with us now. Yes.
That's it really was a slap in the face to us. And I just think you all need to really think about how are we communicating to staff. And don't brush it off. Don't smile about and giggle after the meeting. Yeah. I'm appreciative of really I am. Like, my PTED members have been very communicative to us, asking how we're doing and that sort of thing. But think about how you're communicating to staff. That was stressful, because then poor Verge and the rest of us doing our work for the next couple of weeks, I see Kevin's resigning. Well, we don't know. We read it in the paper like you did. And again, your hands are tied on what you can express, but from human resources to the corporation council to the county board members, you really have to kind of get it together a little bit on what you're communicating to the paper, to the press, and not to members that work for you, that are public servants that are dealing with the public. So again, I'm not trying to sound critical, though obviously I guess I kind of am, but boy, that really blindsided us. And then to have to deal with the public on that, it's been kind of, it was rough. And I know, again, Verge usually takes most of the phone calls coming in. You know, and for her to have to hear about and the rest of us in the newspaper, pretty bush league. So just would express that. Love working for Trempealeau County. Appreciate you guys have tough decisions to make, and I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. But, and maybe I'm letting my emotions get the best of me here, but I want to express that, so thank you.
I want to elaborate on that. Just, you know, going back to the mining days when we were being questioned about mining and stuff like that, we had one person in the office that was designated to talk to any media. That was it. No one else. If anybody got a call, anybody got a newspaper call, you know, or a person coming in, they talked to one person and that was it. That's all I'm going to say.
Mr. Chair.
And I should add, I do want to say, I do think staff do have a right to express their opinions, letters to the editor. I actually do think that is something people have a right to do. I guess I'm just saying, you know, if the county is speaking to the paper to run an article on something like that, maybe give us the heads up.
Okay. Kathy. Oh, Chuck, you're on. You on something?
Yep, I turned it off.
Okay.
When everyone is done, I would like to make a comment about that dissemination to the other people, to the people in the departments. And should I say it now?
Go ahead, you're on.
Okay, I got to be careful with closed session, but the reason we did not forward that information to employees was there was a problem with that information. And we didn't want to continue expressing things that there was a problem with. So that's why we didn't come to the staff. Without saying anything more about confidentiality, I hope you feel a little better about that.
Okay, thanks.
But it was
Chuck.
expressed to the paper.
Okay, yes, Rob.
I mean, come on.
Rob, we got it.
That's a weak answer,
That's what I
Chuck.
said.
That's a weak argument.
There was a problem with it being expressed to the paper.
Okay, Rob, stop, Rob. Okay, Kathy.
Yes, I point of order, please.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. I would like to point out to everyone in the room and the general public that is watching that this committee has been told very little as we go along. We still don't know what the complaints were. We have not been given that. Maybe you have as a board, but the citizen members, absolutely, we know nothing. Nothing has been formally disseminated to this committee from the get-go. And any statements in the paper have come from elsewhere, not from this committee. So, Mr. Grover, I read in the paper also, just as you, that May 3rd would be the date that Mr. Lean would be resigning. Total surprise to me. Total surprise to everybody on this committee, as far as I know. So, as far as dissemination of information, we probably know less than you.
Actually, I do take Rob's point to heart. There should have been a phone call almost immediately to staff saying, this is not true. We are all taking it on different levels emotionally, psychologically, professionally. And so it should have been done. And Verge, you're right, point of contact, the organization the last 3 months has just not been there. So.
I would also like to point out that when this whole situation started, we were told 1 month tops.
Yeah, that was wishful thinking. So what I'm hearing is a focus. We need to refocus on the services that we're providing. We need to refocus on communication. I believe that was part of the discussion last month in terms of communication and commitment. We need to refocus on appropriate leadership and appropriate leadership within the department, as well as knowing what it is that needs to get done and making sure it gets done. Joe, to your point, we need a leader, but we don't have a leader. And we're going to try to approach this in other ways, in any way that we can. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Okay, so the one concrete thing that's come out of this so far is that the committee's agreed to repost the planning and zoning specialist. That person possibly, if they're hired, would work with, per previous conversations, would work with Nick to take over the splits violation issues. We pray that Nick would continue to do that until that a person is designated to do that. The committee is also recommending to the Exec Finance Committee that the detachment happen and that the appropriate language and resolutions by the county board be accomplished in June. The location will be, we have made a recommendation. The Property and Exec Finance Committee will be discussing any physical relocation at a later time, and I'm sure you guys will have some input in that. So I'm not, unless someone can come up with some specifics, we should probably move on with the agenda.
Mr. Chair, moving forward, interim director, yes, no?
I may have just inadvertently pushed the panic button. I've only done that once in all the years I've sat up here, so if someone comes in, guns drawn, just keep your hands visible, okay? There's a panic, but honest to God, right to the sheriff's department.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, I was getting nervous, so I was fidgeting.
Sorry, George. Sorry, George, didn't mean to scare you.
No, it wasn't about you guys, it was me. What do you think, committee? Should I, thank you, this is not my decision, this was just an idea that came to me that I wanted to throw out to you. You've heard reasons for and against. What do you think in terms of approaching staff in other counties to assist us in training new conservation hires, as well as possibly taking on some leadership roles?
I think we should look at both avenues, because, you know, the joint venture with another company, that is just like unanswered. So I think you should look at both options, and I'm sure if we were able to find an interim, you know, if there was an agreement with another county, you know, to help out, it's not going to hurt their feelings.
Yeah, Kel?
I guess I would, at this point, I would probably prefer pursuing an MOU with another county, simply because if we were to try and hire an interim director, we'd have to get them up to speed with, you know, varying knowledge base, so they may or may not have. So I think I'd rather pursue that first,
Okay.
and if they are not, if we can't find a receptive partner, then move on to another possible, you know, interim hiring.
That's just going to prolong this void.
I think we can get some responses in a fairly short period of time, because my guess is folks around us know what's going on. Kurt? Carol?
I think they're out there knowledgeable of what, like you said, what's going on.
The county people around us.
Some of the other counties, yep.
Mr. Chair, being in touch with conservationists throughout the state through Land and Water, the whole state knows what's going on here. So reach out to any county, they will know, they will help. They've helped in the past, we've helped them in the past also.
Yeah, okay. Should we do that? All right, we'll figure out how to do that. I'll probably be meeting with Rick and Krista afterwards and staff to get numbers and names and so forth. Okay, so those were the items that I could come up with in terms of this discussion. I appreciate the input from staff as well. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for everything that you're doing and to keep things going. Yeah, thanks a lot. And I will, communication, we're going to work on that. Try anyway. Thanks, Rob. Reed, anything?
Kind of more listening than anything.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thanks for coming, staying, and input.
so the next meeting date, our next meeting date, I think that's it, is June 2nd.
What about your number 15? Did you do that?
Yeah, we did
Yes.
that one. We snuck that in there. So, actually, we have closed session. We have County Board Chair and Krista and Rick here to sit in. Okay?
So the next meeting is June 2nd?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you failed to put on a section from hearing from the FSA.
Oh.
So I request that you do that next month. Thank you.
Okay, an FSA report for next month from the representative. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time.
Killian will make a motion to convene into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren C, to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Severson. Roll call vote. We'll start with Chuck. Chuck Wallach? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Skoyan?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Ziegler?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes?
Brandt? Yes. Let's take 5 minutes to,
How long do you think this will take? Because my shot is like at 11:50.
can you stay for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I have to get to the annex.
It's a 5-minute drive.
I'm sure they'll still be there even if you're late.
Yes.
It
Well-
doesn't take anything.
I think they quit it.